Hey y'all, it's Rick with Responder Support Services. We're the specialists in caring for first responders and the issues they struggle with, and it's time for our next video. I've been noticing in some news outlets the idea that first responders are developing PTSD at higher rates than they were before. And if you think about it, there are more stressors out there for them now than there were before the pandemic. And there's more reason than ever for them to be on top of their stress management and their resilience plans. According to one of those news outlets, Medical News Today, our frontline workers have a higher chance than before the pandemic to develop mental health conditions. And we're actually seeing the development of PTSD in first responders that have cared for COVID patients. So let's discuss PTSD a little bit more. To develop PTSD, someone must first have witnessed or had to deal with an extremely traumatic event. And that event must include actual or threatened death or actual or threatened injury to him or herself or someone else. I've been with medics recently that have gone on COVID calls, and they're not only feeling a legit threat from COVID, it's a threat they can't see. And that gives them a lot of uncertainty and a sense of loss of control. We know how responders like to have that sense of control. And having regular contact with people who've had symptoms or have died from COVID is very threatening. Now consider our other frontline responders, those that are dealing with the civil unrest across the nation. These experiences are also coming with the idea of impending personal injury or even possible death. Now, PTSD can also come to those who aren't on the front lines. It can come by witnessing and learning about someone else's traumatic event. Individuals can experience trauma through someone else's experience. That makes me think of all the spouses that are on Facebook Live watching their law enforcement significant others dealing with that unrest. And there are some other potential sources of trauma from the pandemic and the unrest. These can be being unable to see our loved ones, for example, when we're self-quarantined, to disruption to our normal routines, disruption to our sleep schedules, isolation from our self-care plans, and more. So what do we do about it? First, learn to recognize what might be the key symptoms of PTSD in yourself or a fellow responder. Remember, we are our brothers and our sisters' keeper. So in addition to the exposure to that significant threat, there are a few others. Re-experiencing, that's another key sign. This can be obvious stuff like nightmares and flashbacks. It can also be those movie clips that start playing in your mind when you're at home on your off time and they show you images from past calls. Avoidance of things that remind you of those experiences, that's another key symptom. A sudden change in the way you think about yourself, the way you think about others, or the way you think about the world in general. And something we call hyperarousal, more trouble than usual sleeping, trouble remembering things, trouble concentrating, and being easily startled. And if those things last for 30 days or longer, that's a sign it might be PTSD. So what do you do next? Focus on controlling what's controllable. This helps minimize the risk of PTSD and or those symptoms. Controlling things that we talk about a lot, washing your hands, covering your cough, wear your PPE and your other protective gear. Think about making plans for what you're going to do if you or someone at home gets sick. Think about limiting or eliminating your news consumption. Make plans for regular social interaction, and my favorite drum to beat, your self-care regimen. Take care of yourself. Above all, ask for help. PTSD is very treatable, and the earlier someone seeks treatment, the easier it is to treat. And watch my earlier video on finding a clinician, then get yourself a good one and make sure that clinician treats first responders. The good news is, for the most part, first responders are pretty resilient and they've been doing pretty well through this. Finally, nothing lasts forever. Eventually, this is all going to be in our rear view mirror. Now, my staff and I would love to talk to any of you about this or the topics from our previous videos. So reach out to us, 828-333-5708. We're on the web at respondersupport.com. Find us on Facebook. And if you found this video helpful, please click subscribe. Thank you.